If Harry stayed in the Premier League, he'd break Shearer's record.
But also, if he played for United...
Still can, he still should.
If Drogba was smiling and happy in a game, you were all right.
In terms of Premier League history, obviously you've got Shearer, Andy Cole, who was there. Michael Owen in that period was incredible.
Have you come across any players that sleep with hair dryers on as well?
I nearly blew myself up in DC. Looked over, nannies in full tears crying, and then the scouts giving me come out, and I've got up to him and went, he's crying.
Are you talking about like Shearer, Drogba, Kane, Aguero? Henry sort of moved about that a little bit like Wayne in some ways.
Yeah.
The big thing for managers and coaches was stopping the players from going out and on the piss or whatever.
And the manager.
Is it ridiculous that Harry Kane is the best number 9 the Premier League's ever seen?
Hello and welcome back to the Fan Debate, brought to you by Sky Bet. And as we had last week, we've got one of English football's greatest ever strikers, Wayne Rooney, joining me on the couch. So I just want to start off, because we're going to do this show around great strikers and what makes a great striker. I mean, for you, when you're thinking about a great striker, centre forward, what are the first things that spring to mind?
Goals. No, I think obviously scoring goals. I think there's been so many great strikers. You go back to, Ronaldo, R9. You had a bit of everything. I always say Drogba. As a number 9, he could head the ball, hold it up. He was quick, powerful. Shearer, out and out goal scorers. I think that's when you think of a striker.
Who was your hero growing up? As like when you looked at centre forwards?
It was different. So I used to love obviously Duncan Ferguson, Alan Shearer. Used to look at them two really. Paul Gascoigne as well. No, he's not a forward, but and then as my game was developing, because I was playing in the older age groups. I was playing for the 19s when I was 14, and they were the centre backs were too strong for me. So then I changed my game a little bit more as a number 10. So I used to watch Yari Littman. I used to watch videos of Yari Littman all the time. When he was at Ajax, Dortmund, and just in terms of how he found space and got on the ball. So
I think that what you've just said there, it just takes me back, because would you believe I was a centre forward as a kid? So I've got a little bit of expertise on that. But when you talk about changing your game, we always associate that, don't we, with players who are over 30, proper professionals, not young players having to change your game to adapt. And I think that shows, even when you're only 14, you're having to change and adapt because you're playing with the under-18s. Now, when I was a kid as a centre forward, I was a number 9, scored goals, seen as the best player in Liverpool and stuff like that. And then I went to Lilleshall, and I was a elite developer physically, so you get into sort of 14 and 15, some of the lads were like men. And I couldn't run in behind anymore. I'd always been someone who was a number 9, ran in behind, scored goals. I couldn't do it. And again, I had to sort of think, I'd have to do something different here. But that's even at a young age. I was only 14, so I ended up having to, someone who held the ball up, get between the lines, try and get on the ball and touches. Yeah,
no, I think back then, you normally play with 2 forwards. Back then, and the centre-backs, so when I'm playing with the under-19s, they were way bigger than me. So every time the ball would come in, he'd push me off the ball, and so I was like, well, there's no point in me going up and standing up against him because I'm not physically ready for that yet. So I started coming a bit deeper, and I have played midfield as well. I played as a centre midfield player as well. Then I went to a forward. So the natural thing for me was to say, okay, let's go and try and play just off the forward and try and create space and get in behind their midfield players and make the centre backs come out to try and catch me really.
Why is the world stop creating centre forwards? It feels to me, if I go back to the 90s or something, I feel like every country had 5 or 6, like, where strikers where you go, this one, you could just name them, you could just keep naming, you'd get up to sort of 20, 25 strikers. It doesn't, is this the way the game's moving? Is it just something we've got to go through and they'll come again?
Yeah, I think the forwards will come again, and for me, it's changed massively in terms of centre forwards don't touch the ball no more. And I don't know what it was, I heard someone talking about it the other week, saying the centre backs are having...
It's Gary, yeah.
Was it Gaz? I heard Gaz talking about saying the centre backs have most touches of the ball. Like goalkeepers now are having 50 touches a game, and then the centre backs are having a lot of the most touches. And for forwards, you're very rarely touching the ball now, and you're expected to score a lot of goals. When Van Gaal came into Man United, he was telling me about the striker he had at Bayern Munich. Who was it at the time?
Zaro?
No, and can't remember who it was, but he was saying that he'd have like 15, 16 touches a game, but score 1 or 2 goals. And I was like, fuck that. I've always wanted to touch the ball and get on the ball. And so I said to him, well, I'd rather go and play midfield than play as a number 9. I'd rather be involved in the game. And I think the game's just changed that. And it's a lot of build-up play, everything's got to be precise now rather than, put the ball forward, put it in the channel, go and compete with your centre-back. That's gone out of the game a bit now, and no one crosses the ball.
Do you think the way the game's going, do you think that's making people not want to be a striker? They're actually not involved in the game. So you're actually, if you think of a basic thing as a kid, of like playing football, it's touching the ball, isn't it, and being involved, and so. Even when you go back to sort of academies now and the way they're getting brought up,
well, I had a conversation with my lad, my eldest boy's at United Academy, and he's a number 9. He gets the ball, lays it off, gets in the box.
Saw him score a brilliant goal the other day.
Yeah, he did. But he's a number 9. But then sometimes he plays on the right, and he comes home and he's like, I enjoy it more playing off the right. And so I keep saying, no, you're playing as a 9. He's better as a 9, and even though he can play off the right. He's left-footed, and so yeah, I think, and he's like, it's boring. And I think for a lot of number 9s now, they're not involved in the game that much. They are trying to find different positions to go and play.
Okay, I mean, you scored 208 goals in the Premier League, one of the greatest strikers we've ever seen in the Premier League and in English football. I mean, I just wanted to ask you, what was a tough defender for you to play against? That doesn't necessarily mean like the biggest name or the greatest defender against you. What did you find tough to come up against?
So I've always said John Terry was the toughest defender I played against, and
he was a great player, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was like, even with both feet, on the ball he was good. And with JT, he was brilliant in the air. He could tackle, but you'd always look at yourself. You were very similar to JT. That you'd always look at him and think, right, I'm quicker than him. I can run in behind him. But it's always you do as well. You put yourself in a position where it was difficult to be able to do that because you just read the game really well. Where I used to like playing against big centre halves, where JT's not the tallest as well, but I used to like playing against big centre halves who wanted that body contact and wanted to go tight against you, and because then I could spin them or I could come off them, and if they give me that yard to turn, I knew I could take them on, whatever. So I think it was defenders who, Maldini, when we played AC Milan, he was like, must be 38, 39. And again, as good as he was, you're thinking, he's a bit older, but always put himself in the position to nullify your strength fairly. So I'd probably say JT was the toughest.
The way the centre-forward landscape's changed, and we're talking about 1 up front, 2 wide players, centre-forwards not touching the ball, who do you look at in the modern game who reminds them of yourself, you sort of when you watch them? Is there someone who's got the traits of a Wayne Rooney playing right now?
At times, I think Jude Bellingham at times when he plays in that 10 role, just because of his character, and he's energetic, he likes to put his foot in, he'll have a go at his teammates, he'll have a go at the ref. So I think there's traits of him. But in terms of forwards in the Premier League, I'm not sure. I didn't enjoy playing this number. I remember we played Milan away. I'd scored 2 goals. We won the game 2-0. And I come off the pitch and I hated the game. And like, I love scoring goals, of course, but I always wanted to be involved, and hated my 2 best scoring seasons with United. I scored 34 goals in both of them, and I didn't enjoy the whole season because I was like, I didn't feel like I was involved in the game. So where forwards have to be more selfish, they have to be ruthless, you have to be in the box and wait and rely on your teammates to create chances, and I always just wanted to be involved. So
what would you do now then? If you were playing now, the way the game's getting played, would you go and speak to a manager, or you've got to change your style of play, the manager, or I want to leave? Or,
no, you'd never.
Or I can't play centre forward in this team. I've got to play.
No, I could play there. I always remember.
No, but you're not enjoying
it. So my first ever game as a number 9 was a Highbury. It was the one where Roy and Vieira were arguing. that was my first ever game as a lone striker, number 9, and against a top Arsenal team as well. And I remember that still, if you ever watch that game back, it was one of my best ever games. I didn't score in the game. We won 4-2, but it was one of my best games. And I remember thinking, I can play this. I never believed, because I was young, and I never believed I could play there as a number 9, a lone forward at that age as well. And I think now what you're seeing is you're seeing Rashford's been, of late he's been playing as 9, but Rashford and Mbappe, who've both gone to 9s this season. Players are scoring, like you look at Salah, Messi for a long time, Ronaldo for a period of his career. The goal scorers come from out wide, and the forwards are there to do a job and pin defenders back in. So if you've got that mindset that you want to score goals, you've probably got a better opportunity from the wide areas, because you get a bit more freedom. You can get the ball and face your defender up rather than playing with your back to goal. So I think that's why you've lost them. I think Isak, Haaland, Watkins, probably the 3 standout ones. Rashford's doing a lot better now. They're probably the standout ones in the league. But beyond that, in European football and World football, there's not many, natural number 9. Like Drogba was the one. Drogba was,
that was a great
for
player,
me. He was the one who you look at, you think I would have loved to have played off Drogba, and just filling in little areas where he weren't.
Flav, you've got a question for Wayne?
Yeah, I think when you used to come
Harry Kane as well, sorry. I forgot Harry.
Funny you say that. When you used to come to White Lane Man United, when I used to watch you, I've genuinely thought that you were the best player I've seen come to Tottenham. You were just sensational. And when you used to drop into midfield and pick the ball up, he was unplayable at times. But as an out-and-out number 9, is it ridiculous? And is there a level of disrespect? And Adam disagrees with me, because we've had this conversation before, that Harry Kane is the best number 9 that the Premier League's ever seen.
He's definitely up there. I love Harry. I think as a goal scorer, he's evolved this game over the last few years as well, which obviously we've all seen. And in dropping deep, and he's got a good range of pass. He can shoot from outside the box as well. I think that's been part of where England have done really well. I think in the last Euros, for instance, when you watch the Euros World Cup. Last
tournament was at Euros.
Euros, in the last Euros, you had Harry coming in, you had Bellingham, Foden coming in, and they were taking up everyone's space. So I think as a team, as a player, Harry should, in my opinion, recognise that and say, no, I'm going to go and stay up top, which at times you have to do. But in terms of, if Harry stayed in the Premier League, he'd break Shearer's record.
He'd break Shearer's record for sure. Also, if he played for United, he would be considered.
He still can. He still should.
Well, right. Okay. but what I'm saying is, if Spurs hadn't hamstrung his career in such a significant way.
Yeah, no.
Unfortunately,
he's definitely. It's a tough one. In terms of the Premier League history, obviously you've got Shearer, incredible goal scorer. I think a lot of his goals, Shearer's as well, was in his 30s as well, was he? Yeah. Then you. I always say Drogba's up there. As an out 9, you've got obviously Andy Cole, who's there. Michael Owen in that period was incredible. I think for sustainability and goals scored, Harry was definitely up there.
And I mean, you could class Henry as a number 9 if you like, and you can bring him into this conversation.
No, but you talking about like someone he doesn't, Shearer, Drogba, Kane, Aguero. Henry sort of moved about that a little bit like Wayne in some ways, and that you don't class.
I think the best 9s for me, the best 9s are ones who players can play off. So that's why I obviously have said Drogba a few times. I think Drogba is a player you could easily play off. I think Harry at his best is always as a lone forward.
His whole career, been
that. As a number 9, but it's difficult to have that player to play off Harry. So I'd say Drogba just ahead of him from that point of view, but in the Premier League. But he's incredible as a goal scorer. He's right up there, and I wouldn't disagree if people are saying Harry Kane's the.
No one says it. That's my problem.
The best, yeah. No, but
you said you said Harry Kane. Did you say he was England's greatest ever?
I think he's England's greatest striker. Just in fact of the goals he scored, firstly, but then you look at the games he's played, the goals he scored. He's just you just hope, you know, he's probably got one tournament left in him. You hope he can push us now to that next level.
It's time for our new game, On the Winning Track, brought to you by Trainline. Their best price guarantee means you won't find cheaper same-day train tickets anywhere else. And even if you do, Trainline will fund the difference. Exclusions and conditions apply. Search best price guarantee on trainline.com. Right, here's how the game's going to go. Right then, our fans will compete against each other to identify a mystery footballer here on our Trainline board. The only clues they will receive are the teams that said mystery player appeared for from the start of their career to the finish. First team appearances only, loans don't count. The winning team will receive a Trainline voucher that will come in handy on the next away day, but there is a catch. If you guess and you are wrong, you are out of that round, okay? And to answer, you need to shout your name and raise your hand. Baz, I'm looking at you.
Okay.
No, you just like shouting out, don't you?
No, I'm the only one who puts my hand up.
You're just shouting out. No. If needed, here's an example. So let's look at the board. Okay, so that's... come on, was it? Man United,
Arsenal, Watford, Brighton.
Yeah. Who do you think it is?
Don't know.
You played with
It's on the back there, isn't it? You played with him? Yeah. Yeah, I'll go on. Who do you think it could be? So started at Man United as a kid.
Oh, Welbeck.
Yeah, Danny Welbeck. So that's the example anyway. Okay. It's the best of three. Right, Baz v Adam. All right. Okay. Player one. Be quick, there's only three teams here.
This way? Yeah, way there. Yeah, I live by there for fucking...
Who is it?
Carlisle?
Who is it?
Exeter.
Exeter. Whose badge is that?
I'm going.
Come on.
Ollie Watkins.
Brilliant, Baz. Brilliant.
Hey, even if you come, I've got one. So even if you beat me 2-1, we're all right now. We've got better than Greg. Remember.
I'll just do what you did.
At least you tried. Yeah.
Mystery player two. Adam, you've got to get this one or it's game over, isn't it? And Baz is good at this game. First team, please, Wayne. It's around here.
I have no idea.
It's around here.
Ipswich Town. I mean, it could be anyone, couldn't it?
No one knows.
Could be anyone.
Around here.
Darren
Down
Bent.
Athletic.
Darren Bent.
Yeah. Oh, that was sharp.
Barking into life there, haven't I?
I knew if it was Charlton, that's where I was going.
Right. Oh, okay. First team, Wayne. Let's say around us here. Blackburn around there, yeah?
Blackburn, yeah.
A bit
Bit higher.
and a bit more, yeah.
Oh, I was about to just jump out and get that. Totally. He went the other way, didn't he?
Yeah, I was going to go the
he
same
went the
one.
other way,
Same
went the other
Flav, I was going the wrong way.
Both of you be ready, because as soon as this team comes in, one of you is going to know it.
I'm going Blackburn sometimes.
Who's that? Everton.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Put the next one in.
Oh, my God, I've gone blank.
Pressure.
Yeah.
That throws me, because
Who is it?
Sheffield United.
I can't believe his next team as well after this.
What's going on here? I've gone here.
Yeah. Or Midland, East Midlands or stuff, yeah.
And who's that? Stoke?
Yeah. I thought you'd get it after the first. If it was me, I'd just concentrate on the first three, because this is through me.
Okay.
This fuck's got
Who did Everton buy from Southampton?
And I'm trying to think. I knew that, I said it, but I...
Go on, throw yeah, this will be a good one, just for the board.
It's gone well.
Rangers.
Where are we?
I think, is this the line there?
Yeah,
or
they're the
there?
line, yeah.
Is that the line?
No.
Well,
He was about to go in Ireland then.
is it more here? Rangers, Glasgow.
I fucking know where that is.
So he's gone to Rangers after Sheffield United.
Yeah, I know. I'm not getting all this. He's a centre forward.
Okay, James Beattie.
Yes. Well done, Baz.
Sheffield United.
Brilliant, Baz. You won 2-1. Another game next week, thanks to Trainline. Remember to download the Trainline app and search Best Price Guarantee on trainline.com. Gareth, have you got a question for Wayne?
Yeah, my one for Wayne was, I just wondered, you know, the way you played, that sort of, the fire in your belly, the fight, and almost scouse way, I would say. But then also when you got in front of goal, you were calm, you were collected, you weren't flustered by what was going on around you. How much of that was just in you and how much was coached?
I was never a natural goal scorer. Like a lot of my goals would be more instinctive and, shots from the edge of the box or first time finishes. And what I had to learn, so I couldn't head the ball. I was actually all right if the keeper kicked in and competing with centre-backs and trying to win flick-ons. But in the box, I could never score header goals. And then, so I went, it was Mick Phelan, actually, at United. And I pulled him and said, I can't score a header. My timing was never great when the ball come in the box. And I worked on it for about 8 months, constantly working on it after training. You see where players, you see it all the time, practicing shooting from 30 yards, constantly, you've got centre-backs coming in, you're like, what are you doing? And instead of working on what they should, like full-backs should be working on crossing the ball or playing the ball into forward men. So I worked on me heading for about 8 months. And then I went on a run of just scoring, I think like 15 goals in a row with my head before I scored with my feet. So putting that work in really helps. I used to watch my teammates. So the first one was Ruud van Nistelrooy when I signed for United, watching him. So then I'd get the ball in the box and I'd be like a bit rushed and then watching how much time he give himself, and then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well. So I'd watched him and be practicing, ask them questions, which seems to be gone now with players. They don't speak to each other. And ask them questions, why would you do this? And so that was a massive help, and understanding you've actually got more time in the penalty area to compose yourself. Sometimes, of course, you don't, but a lot of time you've got that time to take your touch, and you know where the goal is. You don't need to look where the goal is, and then focusing on getting your shot right. A lot of players try and smash it as hard as they can, where actually passing the ball into the net gives you a better opportunity of scoring.
And were you able to take that into being a manager as well?
You try it with forwards, and you see players snatch a lot of opportunities, and then if a ball gets pulled across, they try and smash it as hard as they can. Where I always put it to golf. If anyone plays golf, when you're playing golf, if you stand over the ball with your driver and you try and hit it as hard as you can, more often than not, you're going to slice it or pull it. Where if actually you just focus on getting a good connection, take a little bit off it, you'll probably be a bit more accurate with it. It's very similar to when you're in front of goal. If you try and smash it, it's hard to put it where you want to put it, because you lose a bit of your what's it called? Accuracy. You lose your accuracy from doing it. So taking a little bit off it might only be 10%. You take off it, you get it into the corners where you want to, and make it more difficult for keepers. So there's loads of analogies and loads of things of how you try and tell your players to do. But that's certainly what I done when I was younger, and all of a sudden my finishing went from here to there. So it's definitely worth working on that for young players.
With your manager's head on, he just asked you about being a manager. If you were picking almost like the perfect team, and you wanted one centre forward from the Premier League who's playing right now, what centre forwards would you want on your team?
Haaland. Yeah, as good as Isak's been, I think Haaland, he's got everything. Actually, he's not the best at heading the ball. That's the one downfall he's got with his size, and I think what I was saying before, his timing's off a little bit. You can see that he gets up too early at times, and he's on his way down when he's heading the ball. But I think even this season, the goals he scored with the injuries he's had, he'd be the one I'd want.
Luke, you got a question?
Yeah, probably for you. What was it like playing against him? Because I remember, just as a City fan, he was so annoying. Like, I remember Tevez had a penalty and you watch that post or whatever. It's like a few things that kind of stick out. What was he like when did you first play against him? Kind of thing?
I remember the first time you played against us, you come on as a sub for Everton. I think I was playing full-back at the time. I think the game finished 0-0, but you came on and hit the bar at the Anfield Road end.
Chris Kirkland, it was in goal, he took me hip out. I went through one-on-one, Kirkland come out and hit me. Honestly, after the game, I couldn't walk. But it happened with him as well. So I've gone through Kirkland, whacked me, took me out. And then at Anfield, I'm thinking, there's no way I can stay on the floor. Got up, finished the game.
Oh, when I caught you?
And I couldn't walk. No, but then he caught me as well. It was a straight red card.
It wasn't.
Was it given?
I've looked down. I've got blood pouring all down my leg. So I've got up and trying to carry on. And the referee stopped the game. And the physio's come on. And he's like, listen, you've got a big gash. You need to get it stitched up. You need to come off. So I went in to the dressing room. So then I was in there about 5 minutes. And then Scholes walked in. So we'd been sent off. So I'm in there, the doctor's stitching me up, and then halfway through stitching me up, we had a draw. So we're thinking, fuck, we're either 1-0 down or we've nicked it at the end. We had 10 men. So we've gone out, so I've gone out, my leg half stitched up, still blood pouring down. And then it was when John O'Shea scored. Last minute, so we were buzzing.
Steve Finnan's fault.
I know Steve's fault, but he's done a few. He's done Nanny, that was a bad one as well.
Oh yeah,
on
you
Nanny.
said to me he's crying.
Yeah, he was crying. I went up, Nanny's on the floor. It was a bad tackle, to be fair. It was a red card. Should have been. And then he talks his way out of it by being mates with the refs and stuff. And then I've gone up to, and I've looked over, and Nanny's in full tears crying. And then the scouts give me come out, and I've gone up to him and went, fucking hell, he's crying. I was thinking, but...
No, but listen, he was I asked Wayne before, is there a player like you? And there isn't. Because I always think of you of... Harry Kane had it a little bit. And what I mean is how many attacking players can play two roles with it. You could play as the out-and-out centre-forward, and then you could play as the number 10. Harry Kane did that a little bit. Before my time, and arguably Liverpool's greatest player, alongside Steve, was Kenny Dalglish, and that was... He could actually be the centre-forward when he first came to Liverpool. And then when Ian Rush comes, he's almost like the number 10. And I don't think there's many, you're mentioning sort of Drogba and Alan Shearer. These are all amazing players. Bergkamp, Zola, Cantona as well. They've got their role, if you know what I mean, and they're brilliant at it. But
But I think that's a problem in today's game. That there's that much there for players to see. You can give them everything. Like for instance, when we're doing a team meeting, you're watching, 5-6 games, your opposition, you break it down and put it into like an 8-minute video of the players. Then you send them clips of the opposition who they're playing against from their position. There's that much stuff for players to have, but they don't study, they don't look at it, they don't study it. So I knew I was going to go and play midfield when I got a bit older, or playing out wide. So I'd study that role and what I needed for that certain role. And there's a big chance during the game, we're 1-0 up, that I'm going to get put to the left and Ronaldo will get put up top because I'd run back more. So I studied actually that role and what it meant positionally. If the ball's on the other side, where do you have to be tucking in the other side and stuff like that, where I think a lot of players just don't, but they'll watch YouTube and watch all skills and stuff, and instead of actually studying the role and what they're good at, what they're not good at, what they need to work on. I see it all the time, and sports science has a big role as well. After training, you'll see it, you're out on the training pitch working on stuff. Now the sports science, like, you need to go in, you've done this in the week and you're in the red zone and all that crap, and you're like, what harm are they doing? They're worried about getting injured and stuff, and it's crazy now. It's complete different to what it was.
Anyone else? Gareth, have you got a question for me?
Yeah, a question for you is just sort of who you found it most difficult against as a striker, and then also obviously the longevity of your career. When you played against them once, maybe struggled against them, what did you do for the next time you played them as well?
I mean, I always say Thierry Henry, but Thierry Henry was a problem if you were a right back, not so much as a centre back as such. Really, it was more, and it wasn't just Thierry. It was the whole Arsenal left side that was the big problem. In terms of centre forward, it's funny because I always say, you mentioned Drogba, so he comes to mind. People always say, oh, Drogba, but the best games I ever had for Liverpool were against Drogba.
Yeah.
So it was almost like it's hard to say, oh no, I got the better of him, but because he got the better of me sometimes, but I got the better of him sometimes, because we played against each other that much. I played Chelsea, obviously not always against Drogba. I played Chelsea 47 times in my career because of all like the Champions League games. So it felt like you'd be playing them sort of 4 times a season at least, sometimes 6. And it was always that Mourinho, Benitez time where all the games finished 0-0 or 1-0. So it wasn't like you were getting taken to the cleaners and it was 3-2 or 3-3, or it was like, if you made a mistake, the game was over. You know, that's how strong those teams were defensively. So even though I'd probably say Drogba in a way, but I still, if I picture myself playing well for Liverpool, I'm thinking semi-finals in the Champions League against Drogba and against Chelsea. But listen, he still done unbelievable. I always remember that volley he scored at Stamford Bridge, where it's like he just took it on his chest in, bang, goal, and you're a bit like, you don't know what else you're supposed to do, really, in some way. So I enjoyed playing against Drogba. We had some brilliant battles, so I'd probably say him, yeah.
What was like Rafa? Would Rafa pull you in and say, okay, so today, you know, or in that game there, maybe you could have done, you know, were you learning every time you played against them?
I tell you what was it? The reason I played at the top level was because I had a very, very good understanding of the game, and I was passionate. I wasn't amazing at anything. I wasn't lightning quick. I wasn't technically unbelievable. I wasn't like a John Terry or a Sol Campbell, like really powerful. But I had my wits about me, and I could understand the game, where I needed to be and what I needed to do, and, you know, that type of thing. And I wouldn't need someone to tell me how to handle Drogba. I knew how to handle Drogba in that, even though I was an aggressive player, don't be overly aggressive with him. Because sometimes Drogba could have games where he wasn't there. You know, but when he was there, he was unplayable. He was like, you know, that'd be like, oh, whoa, don't wind him up. Don't go into a silly tackle. Now, if the ball's there to be won, you've got to win it. But don't be going looking, basically, don't go looking for trouble with Drogba because he'll give you it. Talk to him through the game. I used to talk to him, and it was almost because it almost felt like I was his teammate because we played each other that much. It's almost like you knew him. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes when you play against one of your own players, and because you play against them every day in training, say you play against them international or something, you know what they're going to do a little bit, and they know what you're going to do. And it was like that a little bit with Drogba. So I used to always go, you know, almost to talk to him and chat to him and that. But I remember there was one semi-final, he took us the cleaners. We beat them. But it was against Daniel. Daniel had just got into the team about 2007, just taking over Sammy. And he was only 21, wasn't as physically strong as he became. And I think Drogba went on him down that line, was making runs and giving him a tough time. And there was a lot of talk about Daniel Agger being dropped for the second leg in the press. And he actually got the winner. That got us to penalties. So we lost the first one 1-0, drew 1-1. So I remember, not like I was telling Daniel, not like that, but I remember me and Rafa talking to Daniel about, you know, like, not letting it get in your head, basically, and how to keep him, you know, don't speak to him, don't wind him up, you know, stuff like that. So it wasn't so much me, but I remember that because of how good Drogba was in the first leg, yeah.
What did you say? What did you say to them? You said you talked to them. What
Good luck.
No, I mean, I'm not saying like you're chatting away as the game's going, but you might have say something's happened in the pitch, or like a little, you might just, you're not like, you know, like...
You're not that good.
No, not winding them up.
Nice
no, I'm talking about like,
you are good.
You know, something, you're not basically winds them up or looking for trouble or leaving one on them. If something come up, you could have a laugh at a joke or something, or can have one of his players, or someone's fell out, you'd go out your way to make sure he's just like, he's smiling. If Drogba was smiling and happy in a game, you were all right. Once he turned or something happened, it was like, I thought he was pretty unplayable.
So Nemanja Vidic was incredible centre-back. So before we played Chelsea, for 2 days before, Vida would be in the gym, building himself up and trying to, you know, so this way things were in his head. Yeah. And we used to say to him, relax a little bit. Yeah. And then when we played Liverpool, he'd be out working on his quick feet because Torres running behind. So for certain individuals, he'd be putting extra work in. You like it, you're okay, you don't need to, you're strong enough for you. But then that was something that was part of his routine, which you do. But I always think the forwards who are unplayable, a forward to run behind. So Mike Lowen for a 2 or 3 year period was unplayable. And Nelka, when he was doing it, was unplayable. They're the forwards which defenders hate. With you know, if you're making them run back towards their own goal and running behind, that's what Haaland does it quite a bit now. Not as much as it used to be, but no one runs in behind anymore. Wingers, you always remember Overmars coming to the ball and spinning. Yeah. Players don't do that no more, and that's where the game's different. Everything's to feet, and then it's passing back round. Where before, anything in behind would kill defenders, and even if it's, you know, the pass isn't great, you're still going competing, and you might win a throw-in high up the pitch. That's the difference now with centre forwards, because, you know, I could play in today's game as a number 9, and get the ball and lay it off and thing on. But what you need now is forwards running behind. I think that is unplayable. If you get someone who does that, Andy Cole used to do it, maybe not as quick as Mike Lowen, but his timing of his runs, they're the forwards now, which are completely gone, I think.
Well, the high line's so common, probably.
This high line, people that play high line, no one runs in behind.
Yeah, Owen would kill them.
It's crazy, yeah.
Adam, have you got a question?
It kind of got answered earlier. It's about when Wayne shifted up top after Ronaldo left in 08-09. You kind of answered it saying that you didn't enjoy playing in that position. So I won't ask you that, but did that kind of cause issues for you then in terms of the manager wants you to do X and you want to do Y? Did that cause any issues? Or?
I had no issues. I want to be on the pitch, so I play wherever, and that's why I tried to understand all positions really. And I was at United for 13 years, and the amount of forwards we brought in, and you know, players can get disheartened by that and think, oh, can I at least come and take my place? But I used to have that in time and say, okay, I'm going to compete with you. And there's times where, like when Van Persie come in, I knew I was going to play deep. I knew he was the number 9. He was going to be the number 9. So I started watching Fabregas and Van Persie for Arsenal, their relationship, because I knew that I'd be playing that Fabregas role. So you understand that. But when I started playing as that 9, I had no issues with it. I just didn't enjoy it as much. And I was scoring goals every week, but I wanted more. Sometimes you have your Linekers and players who just want to score goals and they come alive in the 6-yard box, whatever. I wanted to go and get the ball off fullbacks and switch the play and play through balls and stuff and just be involved. I want to enjoy football. I wanted to play football.
With that being said then, are you glad you came up in that era? Because players like yourself now, they almost have that rawness coached out of them now.
Yeah, it's
like you're saying, like
positional.
Back to are you kind of glad you come up in the era?
Yeah, 100%. And the game now is very much positional, and like we can talk about fullbacks coming inside, and so I think, like for instance, with United now, the creative players are coming back and the wing backs are going higher, where the attacking players are lower than the defensive players. Yeah. Now, and you like, if you've got good attacking players, you want them, like Bruno's done really well in midfield, but I want to see Bruno higher. I want to see him in the round of penalty area where he can shoot and creating. So you're ending up with so many defenders up the pitch, and then your midfield players who are good attacking players filling in the fullback spots and stuff. It's in some ways it's okay if you've got the personnel, but every team's doing it now where I think it's a little bit too much.
Greg, you got a couple of questions or one?
Yeah, I suppose it's for you in your punditry roles, but is there a better example of a player, of a manager getting the best attributes out of a player than Chris Wood? Mm-hmm. You know, we were mocked spending £15 million on him, and he's on for a 20-goal season. So,
yeah, but I think, like, I'm surprised. I think I'd be lying if I said that we weren't surprised by the season. He done well towards the end of last season.
Yeah, he did. That's right, when he took over from Taiwo.
So being surprised, I think the way Nottingham Forest play suits Chris Wood perfectly. Because I think if you put Chris Wood in a different team who plays slightly different, I don't think that suits him. And the Ward Langa, Hudson-Odoi, the wide players and the attacking players on transition. So he's there as a bounce really and being a big presence. And then obviously the Forest are one of the teams who do put the ball in the box, and that's one of his attributes as well. So I think that Forest team really suit Chris Wood. And sometimes you find a team which suits you, where you know the style of play, the environment, everything really suits you. And I think that's exactly what Chris Wood has found in Nottingham Forest.
Livy?
Yeah, I'm really interested in the psychology of like scoring goals, because obviously you've all got amazing technical ability, but can you learn that, like making the right decision under pressure in a match situation and having the confidence to do that? Can you train that?
Yeah, and obviously your mind, your brain, and that's why you practice on the training pitch. You practice so it becomes second nature. So when you're in a position to finish, you know what finish you're going to make, and regardless, sometimes a lot of the time you don't need to look at the goalkeeper. If you go through 1v1, of course, you need to be aware where the goalkeeper is. Do you go round him? Do you dink him? Do you slide at one side? That's a different skill, if you like. But when you're in the penalty area, you should have been there that many times in training. Your brain doesn't have to think; it knows, it recognises it, and it just happens
It's like instinct.
automatically. So that's the importance of. I suppose it's in any sport. If you, I don't play cricket, I hate cricket actually. But if you're playing cricket, the difference in how someone bowls, you'll be used to whether it's a spin or a fast ball. And same with boxing, if you study them, someone throws a punch in a certain way, you know how to move out the way and whatever. So with any sport, and same with football, you understand what you need to do in that moment in time.
You know, when you're talking about that moment, I'm thinking of the other end of the pitch, of you're about to finish, does everything slow down? 'Cause I think of when I was defending and I was trying to make a block, or it looked like someone was going to score and I was coming across and thinking, I'd almost say a few seconds before thinking, I can get there. I know by the time his foot's about to shoot, my foot will be in front of his. And it'd almost slow down for me. Like everything, it'd just be like almost in slow motion, and I'd be aware, right, I need to get my foot there now. And I know, look, watch back the video, it's like 1 second. But when you're in front of goal, and it obviously happens dead quickly, but when you've got that composure in front of goal,
yeah, you know
what's going through your mind.
It feels like, and it feels like you've got that much time. And I think if you know where you're putting in, you know what you're doing. Like, for instance, if I'm going towards if the goal's there and I'm going this way and I'm about to shoot, I know you're coming across. I know you're going to put your foot out. So I know the only way I can score is through your legs, going back across the goalkeeper. So I'm actually waiting for you to get a bit closer to do that, because then the keeper his view's blocked. So you know that certain players, or you know with Van Dijk, he very rarely dives in. So he'll probably get there and stay on his feet a little bit. So you always knew JT used to dive in a lot. Chelsea's backline actually, if you go through, they go to the goal, they go beyond past the goalkeeper. So you knew if you go to shoot in a cutback, the midfield players are free all the time. So there's loads of different scenarios of the opposition, what defenders are going to do. So you've got that in your head
in that
going into a game. So
you're saying, you know, I'm going to dive in. So if it's me trying to block a shot, you might be thinking, okay, go through the legs. If you're at Chelsea in a tight angle, you think, pull it back. So going into a game, those scenarios are playing out in your mind, right?
So if I'm on a tight angle, and you're coming across, if I shoot too early, I'm going to shoot as your foot's just getting there and you'll block it. So if I just wait that split second, you'll might be 1 inch further where your leg's gone past it a little bit and it goes through your leg. So that's a real skill, which I think top players, they have that understanding where just to delay it by not even half a second. But it's them little fine details which separate players in the Championship really or even lower league, Premier League players to the top players, is them details which make such a big difference. And you see, how much, in my opinion, the best ever, Messi, you see how much time he seems to have in the penalty area. It's because he knows exactly what he's doing. He's not committing to something because it's there. He knows what he's doing and why he's doing it. So I think them little details are massive for any player.
Dave?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, Wayne, in terms of roles and stuff like that for yourself. But I suppose, Carrie, you could answer as well. In terms of playing in a 2 or defending against a 2, did either of you have a preference? I mean, you said you like to get involved a little bit more, but Jamie, in terms of defending, did you always think it was a little bit easier to defend against a lone striker and you could pass it on to the other defender? Or was it, a bit easier with a 2 because you could almost dedicate yourself to a specific player?
I mean, I hear this a lot where I hear centre-backs talk and say in my day that, we played against the front 2, they only play with the front 1 now. Now, I just think it's a bit too simplistic to say that. It's like, okay, we're up against 2. But normally if teams play with 2 strikers, the wide players are narrow midfield players. Yeah. So it's not like, so basically then you've almost at times, it's 2v your back 4. Mm-hmm. Whereas if it's a 4-3-3, You've got your 2 wide players making runs in behind you here. So it's not this like, oh, yes, it was easy. We just had to look after it. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a little bit of that sometimes. You know, if it's a long ball team, every time there's a flick on, if you lose your man, you could lose it. But there's lots of different things with different formations. It's not just a case of 2 up front, 1 up front. It has a knock-on effect. So if the opposition only have 1 up front, or let's say they have 2 up front, then midfield players will be wide at times, but they won't be on the last line all the time, normally. They might be, but then that leaves them open in midfield space. Normally, the 2 centre midfield players would never really go forward that much. They'd be more like 2 sitting midfield
I think
players.
with 2 up front now, you lose a man on the top line. So the way teams play now, they normally in build-up, they go with a 3-2-5 or a 2-3-5. What Ange does a lot of 2-3-5. So what you end up having is your number 9 here, then you've got 2 number 10s, and you sometimes full-backs or wide players. So there's a front 5. Now, a lot of teams end up static, but for defenders, if you get your 2 number 10s playing in behind the midfield, but not up against them, then for the centre-backs, it's very difficult from that point of view. So with 2 forwards, you end up with the 2 wide players, and you actually lose a player, but you end up with an extra player in midfield or at the back if you want to be secure. So that's how the game has changed. It's easier to press with the 2. City do it a lot with, if it's Haaland and De Bruyne will press out. So I always think with 2 forwards, you can force them to one side and then go and lock them in that side. With 1, you're letting them have the ball and go around the back and that. So there's an in-possession shape and out-of-possession shape, which normally a lot of teams are doing very similar now.
Yeah, so I think both systems give you a different problem. And you think of the first 4-3-3 team in the league, really, that stood out was Chelsea, wasn't it? That was the first team that really went to that. And then you think, okay, great, me and Sammy, if you only got to look after Drogba. But then you got Robin and Duff running, you got Frank Lampard running here. Frank Lampard scored a goal against us in the Charity Shield in 2006. We got a striker there, Frank Lampard. I think, Frank played the ball for someone, making a run there. So there's lots of different things, you know what I mean? So if I was playing against Chelsea and Drogba was going with Sammy, I'm not like thinking, oh, this is easy, I've got a cigar. I'm thinking, oh, where's Frank Lampard?
Probably got more to worry about, if anything, because you don't know if the winger going to be cutting.
Yeah, so it's different, really. You know, different systems give you, you know, different problems. Baz, you got a question?
Yeah, just about when you're obviously the head coach or whatever, and how you scout players. I mean, what is it? Is it data? Is it how does that sort of process work? If you want
the last one at Plymouth was basically all data, which is good in certain ways, but in other ways, my big question, which I had on it, was, you know, the data can give you an outline of a player, but what's the player's character? So you can do background checks on that, and you know, what's he going to be like if you lose a couple of games? So all that the data doesn't give you, but it gives you outline. So it literally gives you the top for your budget, the top 10 players, what you've got for that budget, and if they're available or not. And then I'd look at them all and you'd say, right, I fancy this one for he fits us better, whatever. And then at other clubs, DC United, for instance, was all the club. That's a completely different system altogether. There's players getting traded left, right, and centre, and you're not really involved in that, to be honest. The 2 I was involved in was Matty Click and Benteke. Other than that, you're not really involved in it. At Derby, we didn't have no money. And then at Birmingham, I didn't get the opportunity. It's interesting. So when I joined Birmingham, they brought me in and said, this is how we want to play. And so I presented, done the presentation to them, and this is how we want to play. This is exactly what they wanted to do to move forward as a team. So after 2 games, I said to them, players can't do it. I want to adjust and adapt to try and get results. That's what I was saying before. I need to get results. The way the game is, and then the message I got was clear, no, keep doing it. And then in January, we'll get your players in who can. And I got sacked on January the 1st.
What's the ideal for you? What would be the ideal way to do it then, do you think?
I think it's
the way you look at it.
It's a collective, because as a manager, I heard Arteta talking about this, as a manager, you've got that much work to do with your team and your squad and preparation and everything you've got on your games coming up. In the background, you need a really good recruitment team. I've said about United, I think that has to be better, especially this period where United are. So you need a really good recruitment team who can identify the players who will fit the club and fit, the culture of the football club and the ages and, the budget-wise can completely fit into what you want. And then once they go through all that process, then the manager is going to meet the player and sometimes you can meet the player and walk away and say,
no chance.
He's not for me, or you meet a player and you maybe have a doubt, but you can see that personality in a player, which having them characters in your team is really important as well. So the process, the manager really should be the last one really to come in and try and convince the player to come to the club, and especially now with all, sporting directors and technical directors, that's their job. Their job is, they know exactly, or you go in, the club might want you to play a certain way, or they know exactly what way you're playing. You should have the best people then to go and identify the best players for that role, that position.
Do you agree with first pick, last pick then for the man? Like first call, we need a centre forward rather than someone playing.
Yeah, and I think that happened. Like at Plymouth, for instance, before we got to January, I'd say, right, I really need a left back.
Yeah.
That's like a priority. We need a left back, we need a striker. And then you prioritise positionally what you need.
All right, we're going to finish with a community question. And this is from Simon from Essex. Wayne, out of all the players you played with, which did you think were going to make the best managers?
To be fair, I thought you will have.
Why?
Shit yourself and went into punditry.
Crap question.
Simon's few.
That's Simon from Essex.
Yeah.
So go on, why did you think I would?
I thought your knowledge is.
So was this when we were players?
Yeah, when we go with England and you knew everything about football. I think we all have a general knowledge of football, but his was incredible going back 10, 20, 30, 40 years and stuff. And so I always thought you would go into it. There's some, like, I didn't see Frank or Stevie. I'm sure a lot of people didn't see me going into management. I always thought you would be. I thought Michael Carragher as well would. That was probably the only two, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a massive football fan. I don't think that necessarily means that it makes you a good manager. Yeah. What you're talking about is like, I remember games and players and, I used to always read football magazines and always be... I think I was obsessed with football, but I don't think that necessarily means I would have been probably managers do have an obsession with the game. It's probably a good start for them, isn't it, in some ways, but I'm glad I never...
Do you ever get any offers, Jamie?
No.
I always remember you saying years ago, about Sammy Lee, I always remember you saying you couldn't deal with the way you spoke to Sammy, or you've seen players speaking to Sammy Lee, that you couldn't deal with players going back at you.
Well, what that is that's like not so much Sammy as a coach, but like there's always someone who has to be the referee. Whatever session you do, always has to finish with a game, 8-a-side, doesn't it? All the lads want a game, and there's always someone who's got a referee. And you've seen people slaughtering Sammy Lee. Like he's won 2 European Cups for Liverpool, and play, you're a disgrace, the fucking decision you give. And I'm thinking, if a player said that to me, they'd be fucking...
You think, Wayne, do you
no way I'm taking...
Do you think players are more difficult to control now as a manager than, let's say, 15, 20 years ago? Or about the same, what do you think?
He's on about Cunha here.
No, I mean in general, because like Sir Alex Rowe probably had an aura that everyone just hates. I would imagine, but I don't know.
Players now, it's night and day to what it was. So, for instance, the amount of, what Carragher saying there, the amount of argument I've had with manager, coaches on the training pitch, but you go on that pitch and you give everything to the team.
Yeah.
And I suppose back in my day, certainly before my day, the big thing for managers and coaches was, stopping the players from going out and on the piss or whatever.
And the manager.
But nowadays, I've obviously won't name names, but I've had to, speak to players about the amount of time to spend on the PlayStation, and I'm sleeping at the right times because they're up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on PlayStation, not going out where, you and then turn up into training, you can see, and then there's players taking different supplements which are not helping them. So it's so different now.
You come across any players that sleep with hair dryers on as well, or is that just you?
So I nearly blew myself up in DC. There's a lot of people who do that, Have a look it up. There's a lot of people who do it.
What's it for heat or noise? Or both?
No, so I like the cold breeze. So if you've got a fan next to your bed, which a lot of people will do as well.
Not in England, he won't. Oh, no.
So the hairdryer is just a glorified fan, basically. It's a bit stronger, it blows cold air on you.
Okay.
And yeah, so...
Yeah. Fair play.
What a way to fit.
When I was going to Europe, when we go to the European games with United, just before I'd had a hair transplant, so I had no hair. So we're travelling to Europe and got searched, my bag got searched, and I can always remember it was 2 fellas, they're looking at me, and they just pulled the hairdryer out and they're looking at me like, what the fuck have you got hair? So I have had a few funny looks.
Well, listen, a brilliant way to end the episode. Thank you for joining us on the Fan Debate, brought to you by Sky Bet.